Yo, bro.
Are you videoing?
Yes.
Hi! We're going to see Avengers Endgame on basically opening night.
Yeah.
I'm gonna crash the car.
Opening night!
Opening night! Ah! Welcome back to TSWNP. After a brief hiatus caused by unforeseen circumstances,
What's the object of...
I'm back. And I'm back with something a little bit different. My sister and I went to go see Avengers Endgame when it came out on Thursday night. Why am I crying? And it was pretty cool. I had a good time. She had a good time. We both shed tears. To be completely honest, I'd intended on making a video about Avengers Endgame for about 2 months now. A long time. And several different ideas went through my head when it came to ways to approach the film. Ways to talk about it, rather. My original intention was to actually get interviews after the movie was over with people that were in the theater with me, but the theater was kind of dodgy about that, and also I was really tired after a 3-hour movie. It wouldn't have made for good interviews. And so instead, I bring to you today a video that is simply an appreciation for the movie that I just watched. Avengers Endgame lived up to every expectation that I had going into this movie, which is saying something. There were a lot of things that I, going into it, had knowledge of. A couple comic booky things, a couple things that I had theorized. Things like Professor Hulk, things like, you know, Iron Man being the one to snap. Saving the details for later, because I do want to do like a semi-intelligent analysis of the movie. To begin, as the title suggests, Avengers Endgame is the bow tie. It is the button on the present that is Marvel up to this point. Did I say the button? It's the lace bow, the ribbon. Avengers Endgame is the ribbon on the present that is Marvel up to this point. It is the finisher. It is the fulfillment of the story up to this point. I have one word written on the whiteboard to my left here. This is where I was going to put all my notes. This is where I was going to do all of my analysis or whatever, but it's all up here, don't worry. But instead of writing everything down over here, I have one word over there, which is balance. Now, there's been a theme of balance throughout all of the Marvel films up to this point, especially in Avengers Infinity War, in terms of not only the story, the plot of the film, but also in terms of the character arcs up until this point. And obviously the famous line, perfectly balanced as all things should be. Up until this point, you've seen an interaction of many key characters and how they've influenced each other, especially when it comes to Captain America and Iron Man. Those two key characters have been influencing each other ever since they first started interacting on screen and have sort of determined where their arcs end. Again, spoilers. Everybody knows this. There was a thing at the beginning of the video. Please stop if you haven't seen the movie already. At the beginning of their arcs, Tony Stark starts off as a self-indulgent, non-sacrificial, very selfish individual. And his arc is becoming a superhero. Is becoming, not even a superhero, just a hero. Just someone who is self-sacrificial. Someone who is willing to lay on a wire for a comrade. Which again is reference to the original Avengers when Steve Rogers and Tony Stark are fighting. Steve makes the point to say that Tony is not the kind of person to make the sacrifice play. Whereas Steve Rogers, from the very beginning, from when we first see him, is already the embodiment of this hero archetype that we're used to seeing on screen. He stands up for people that are being bullied. He just stands up for people in general and is very giving, very self-sacrificial. And from day one, he's like that. His arc is learning to allow himself to be happy. And it's one that we see just very painfully brought up over and over again. He doesn't get that last dance with Agent Carter. He doesn't allow himself to fall in love and to have that kind of life and to settle down. He's always a hero that stands alone and is always on the run. And we see that with Civil War. We see that with sort of his like Lone Rider escapades afterwards as well, leading up to Infinity War. And just his character in general up until Endgame has been striving to get to the point where he can allow himself to say, no, this is me. I'm going to do this for me, as opposed to just constantly giving of himself for the sake of other people, which again was where he started. Captain America and Tony Stark are literally the inverse characters of each other. And because of that, there's a lot of friction on screen between the two characters, especially when they interact with each other when they're in the same room. What's fascinating though is that Marvel has been doing a phenomenal job at allowing the characters of Captain America and Iron Man to kind of organically rub off on one another. And you see that throughout the films, that, you know, the ideals that Captain America strives for begin to rub off on Tony, and Tony's ability to think for himself and of himself begin to rub off on Captain America. He starts thinking like, oh, what if I could get that last dance with Agent Carter? What if I could just settle down and have a life? And Endgame is the fulfillment of that. Endgame brings balance to the characters. Endgame is where Tony Stark makes the sacrifice play. It's where he lays down his life for everybody. And Endgame is also where Captain America for the first time says, I have to do this. And I'm not doing it for anybody else except me. And so all that to say, that entire just diatribe that I just laid out, all that's to say, Endgame is a phenomenal movie. And it does exactly what it needed to do, which is put those characters to rest. It's good, is what I'm trying to say. It's a good film. You should go watch it. Go watch it. Some other minor things that I liked, as I had mentioned before, there were things that going into it I was expecting or wanting the movie to provide, and it did. Professor Hulk was something that I was really looking forward to. I don't know why. It's partly because I was interested to see how they would do it. A smart Banner Hulk hybrid, but it was also because I was pretty sure it was going to look stupid, and it kind of did. I don't know why they can't seem to nail the CGI of Hulk. They can't seem to nail that. It didn't look bad, but it didn't look good either. I don't know how to describe it. It kind of looked like I was watching a jacked Ruffalo shot from like a low angle, and then obviously there's computer generation. It's a stupid explanation, but all I'm trying to say is like, I was kind of prepared to really start laughing, and I did, and I upset some people around me. On a similar note, the guy to the left of me was coughing the entire time, so if I die, then that's why. Beyond Professor Hulk, another big thing that I was looking forward to was, of course, who would wield the Infinity Stones? Oh, no, wait, there's no... Oh, I completely forgot about this one thing. I'm on 3 Tylenol right now. Back in Avengers Age of Ultron, at the beginning... Yeah, at the beginning of the movie, the gang are kind of lounging around in the Avengers Tower. They have just like a playful sort of competition where they try to see who can lift Thor's hammer. And, you know, obviously most of you have probably seen that, but there's a tidbit where Captain America is able to kind of move the hammer. Like, not very much, not that anybody else except for Thor to have noticed. It wasn't enough for anybody else to notice, but Thor noticed it, and I think Captain America noticed it too, and I think, you know, kind of getting to the psychology of the character, even back then, he didn't want to be like, oh, I can lift this. So like as soon as he found himself able to lift it, he kind of faked it, I think is the idea. Because I don't think there's this whole like Cap wasn't quite worthy thing. I think you're not partially worthy, but rather you're either worthy or you're not. So the fact that Cap was able to kind of jiggle the hammer means that he's able to lift it at that point, which is why Thor looked scared. All that to say, I believe that Captain America was able to lift the hammer in that movie and just opted not to. Fast forward to Endgame, we get what is like the coolest just fulfillment of that tidbit from that movie. We get to see Captain America not only lift, but use Thor's hammer, like old school classic Thor's hammer. The details of how they got that back, just don't worry about it for right now. Captain America saves Thor with his own hammer. Thanos is attacking Thor. Thor is almost about to get and Captain America saves him by dual wielding his shield and Mjolnir. Is that how you pronounce it? And Mjolnir. That doesn't sound right. He's dual wielding. Yeah. It's an amazing sequence of events, and obviously I can't go into I can't show any of it, so you're just gonna have to go see the movie. That just destroyed my microphone. Ooh, I'm about to run out of battery juice. About to run out of juice. Daddy needs his juice. This video should be titled "Madman Who Hasn't Gotten Sleep in a Week Rants About Avengers Endgame on Camera and Scares People." So that was pretty freaking awesome. The other thing that I was really looking forward to that I was pretty sure was going to be the resolution to the conflict was seeing Tony Stark snap Thanos, and I was pretty sure that was going to happen, but I wasn't sure what the sequence of events was going to be, or how, the why, the how, the when. Oh man, the satisfaction of Tony Stark saying, "I am Iron Man," and then snapping and literally resolving the whole thing. I sank into my chair, and it just felt so good. They did such a good job at finalizing that conflict, because it was the exact opposite of what had happened prior. Tony Stark gets the advantage, gets the stones away from Thanos, and finishes it. And it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, and it leads to what is the saddest moment in the entire movie. Tony Stark uses the Infinity Gauntlet that he made to snap, wipe out Thanos' army, and wipe out Thanos. As we've seen in previous attempts at using the Gauntlet, it took a toll. And Tony Stark, just being a human being, does not survive it. And we witness on screen the death of Tony Stark. And that was hard. That was the first time in any Marvel movie that I was almost in shock, if that makes any sense. I wasn't able to register the gravity of what was happening on screen. What you witnessed there is not only the death of the person that just saved everybody in this movie, not only the death of an iconic hero in this universe, but you also witness the death of the one that started it all. For arguments can be made that Captain America was the first Avenger, and technically, chronologically, he was, but from the standpoint of being the first, not only sequentially in the cinematic universe, but also the first to kind of kick everything into action, it really was Iron Man. It was Tony Stark whose actions led to the birth of the Avengers as we know it. And so that was, so it was huge seeing that on screen and seeing it as final as it was. Movies have a tendency of leaving a little bit left to imagination, which in my opinion is stupid, but there was such a finality to his death and the way that it was shot and the send-off that he was given that he is well and truly gone. We're not going to see Tony Stark on screen in the cinematic universe. So yeah, it was a really good film, and it led to the ending of some really important characters. Tony made the sacrifice play, and Captain America goes back in time to put the Infinity Stones back in their original times, and then just says, screw it, I'm going to stay here and grow old with the person that I fell in love with originally. So he gets his last dance with Peggy Carter, which, and that's how the movie ends, is him getting his dance with Peggy Carter. They knew exactly where the heartstrings were, and they were just I'm brain dead. You should go see this movie. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. I'm gonna start crying again.